Hey there, folks. This is a bonus clip that was supposed to be in yesterday's Reviewing Network Live video that I did about The Flash. I rewatched the video again recently, and I realized that I completely forgot to put in an entire section talking about all the crimes that Ezra Miller committed, and that's part of the controversy of the film itself. That's all I really wanted to say here, but I thought about maybe re-editing the video and putting it back in there, but since it's already up, I think I'll just make it its own video here. So go ahead and watch this. I'll put a link to the time code from the original video so you could stop right there and see that and play this part and then come back to the rest of the video there. So again, my apologies for that. So here's the footage that should have been in yesterday's video. So let's start with the obvious one, and that is, of course, Ezra Miller and his many controversies and legal issues that he's been dealing with for the last couple of years. It kind of started back in 2011, before he'd even become a star. He was arrested in Pittsburgh when he was doing the Perks of Being a Wallflower for a broken brake light, and they found out he had 20 grams of marijuana in his possession, and he was charged with drug possession and got a penalty of $600 for 2 citations of disorderly conduct. But that was from back before he became a star. Like, once he became the Flash, and now we get into 2020, there was a video that surfaced in a since deleted tweet that showed Miller strangling a woman and throwing her to the ground. And this took place at a bar in Iceland that Miller frequently went into the city in, and a bar employee identified him as Miller, who was escorted off the premises. And then 2 years later, after that video came out, Miller claimed that the strangulation was a spontaneous reaction spurred by a group of teenagers over his mixed martial arts skills, which, okay, whatever, dude. But here's where it gets kind of really uncomfortable to talk about, because that March of 2022, he was actually arrested in Hawaii for a physical altercation with patrons about hurling obscenities at customers at a karaoke bar, charged once again with disorderly conduct and harassment. And then he later claimed that they became enraged after being accosted by a Nazi, and Miller claimed that they were being unlawfully persecuted, and they accused the officers of intentionally committing a hate crime. And again, Miller was taken into custody for second-degree assault and arrested for throwing a chair, hitting a 26-year-old woman, leaving a half-inch cut on her forehead, and arrested 20 minutes after the attack and pleaded no contest, $500 disorderly conduct charge. There was a restraining order that was not too long after that, after he went into the bedroom and threatened the person that he hit, what happened was Miller allegedly barged into the bedroom of this couple and threatened them hours after they were released. He was released from his arrest from that altercation, and they accused him of stealing a passport as well as a wallet containing a social security card, driver's license, and bank cards. And then shortly afterward, the couple later withdrew that position on April 11th. Then we get to June of 2022, when the Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Court issued a temporary order of protection against Miller on behalf of an 18-year-old activist, Tokata Ionize, and her parents, Chase Ionize and Sarah Jumping Eagle, requested the court order because they said Miller's use of violence, intimidation, threat of violence, fear, paranoia, delusions, and drugs to hold sway over children. The relationship between Miller and Ionize was something that happened when he did the Fantastic Beasts movies in 2016, when Miller was 23 and Eyes was 12, including Eyes flying out to London while he was working on Fantastic Beasts 2. She dropped out of school, which her parents believed she did in order to follow Miller. Her parents also stated in court that Miller had caused bruises on the child's body. Miller had groomed and manipulated her. It gets pretty deep on here on this subject. And in August, they said that Ezra Miller's music collaborator said that he actually witnessed him verbally abuse Iron Eyes over wearing makeup. Iron Eyes still defended Miller by referring to the incident as a catty comment or a part of queer dialogue, calling the allegation of abuse homophobic. And a former resident of Miller's farm in Vermont, Miller's believed that people criticize the relationship with Iron Eyes because she is an apocalyptic Native American spire Christ who, along with Miller as Jesus Christ, will bring an indigenous revolution. And Miller also refers to them as a messiah to Native Americans, although Miller does not have any indigenous ancestry in the sole person making this claim. Like, you see how crazy this is getting here? And that's just and we're not even done with this yet. It keeps going. So not too long so in June of that same month, June 2022, a mother and her 12-year-old child were granted a temporary harassment prevention order against Miller in Massachusetts after Miller threatened the woman's family, showed inappropriate behavior towards the child. They showed up at the family's house unexpectedly wearing a bulletproof vest and brandishing a gun before pestering the child before uncomfortably touching the child's hips. Like, it keeps going, man. Like, it keeps really going. And it was revealed that Miller had been housing a woman they met in Hilo, Hawaii, and her 3 children on Miller's farm in Vermont since April of 2022. Allegations from sources said that, as well as the child's father, are that guns and ammunition are easily accessible to children who are 1 to 5 years old. The 1-year-old put a loose bullet in his mouth. Her mouth, I should say. The woman claimed that Miller was offering them a shelter from her ex-husband, who she alleged was abusive. There was claims of assault rifles being propped up on piles of the children's stuffed animals, heavy marijuana use with people smoking marijuana in front of the children in rooms without proper ventilation. A witness stating that he saw Miller blow marijuana smoke in the baby's face and used her arm to wave more smoke in the baby's direction. Miller apparently was running a large unlicensed marijuana cultivation operation, and then finally, in August, they approached the residence and reportedly attempted to serve the mother an emergency care order that demanded the child's removal from her care, and the homeowners fear for their safety because of a caseworker's affidavit. The state attorney's office had requested 2 emergency care orders over the past week that sought to legal custody of the children over to the state. And there was a burglary charge not long after that. There was surveillance footage of him stealing bottles of alcohol that led him to being arraigned in court in September of 2022, and then that arraignment got pushed back, and then January 13th, that trespassing plea and the guilty to trespassing thing happened in January 2023, and then finally in August of 2022, Miller said that he apologized for his past behavior because he had recently gone through a time of intense crisis. He has complex mental health issues, this is not something that you used as an excuse, dude. Like, it was also believed that his relationship with Ionize would bring about the apocalypse, and Freemasons were sending demons to kill him. This dude is out of his mind. Like, I'm reading off the stuff, all these charges here, and it's just like, no sane person who runs a major studio would still continue to allow this to happen as these charges kept building up here. Like, you want to try to save this person, that's fine. You know what you don't try to do? You try to push it. You don't try to push it under the rug and say it's okay. I mean, we're going to get him into rehab. He's going to be just fine. Like, not everybody can be Robert Downey Jr. Not everybody can be like Charlie Sheen, where they go to rehab and successfully come back. And it's crazy to think that no studio would be crazy enough to do that, except, oh wait, one studio was. Which brings us to the next thing we need to talk about, and that is the head of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav.